So today I wanted to talk about failing. And it's really actually failing until you succeed. And or failing or going through all your failures so that you can just get to your success as quickly as possible. And the reason you have this concept is that from a Taoist perspective, what's going to happen is what's going to happen, which means that when you do certain things, it's inevitable that certain things are going to happen. And so, like when you're learning to do something, or when you're learning a new task, or whatever it is you do in life that's new, or sometimes even not new, you have to actually go through certain you have to go through certain things, or certain things are going to happen, such as getting unintended outcomes or failures. And so, if when a person is learning, so a good example of this is when a person is learning to type the word cat, C-A-T. And let's say, for instance, the person makes an error and types C-T-A first. Most of the time, the way people try and correct is by not trying to make an error. So they try and keep practicing to type CAT. But that's actually not the issue. The issue is that your muscles are misfiring, and it's hitting the T first before it hits the A. And the reason it's misfiring is because you have no control over that muscle. And so, ironically, the way to correct it is for you to type until you can consistently type CTA, and then start practicing CAT again, and then you have control to type both. And that's actually how Tai Chi practice works. When you have a behavior where you have a knee-jerk reaction if that doesn't happening, then you actually practice that as part of your practice until you have control over it. And once you have control over it, you can also have, by the definition of control, you have the choice not to make that movement. And so ironically, if you don't want a certain kind of movement, you need to practice it. It's the same thing with riding a bike. When you ride a bike, oftentimes people try not fall. That's actually what causes the fear and the tension that makes you fall. And so, ironically, if you look at most people, by the time they care more about being able to be balanced and ride the bike, the destination, than not falling, they start being able to ride. The focus shifts over from not falling to being able to ride the bike, to being able to reach your goal, wherever their goal is, the destiny. Typically, a parent is at the other end, waiting for you, or they say, okay, to the lamppost, and then they're next to you, helping you not be afraid of falling by, being next to you, or standing next to you. And once you have the joy of balancing, that becomes more important than the fear of falling. And when that happens, you start being able to balance yourself. So we can tell that by the time you're not afraid of falling, then you'll fall. You'll fall actually however many times you need to fall in order to gain balance. The only important thing is that you have a clear enough goal. And so when you have a clear enough goal, you can focus on reaching the goal instead of falling. And that's how you replace the fear of failing to the goal that you have, to being successful. And so what I wanted to say here in this talk is that you want to get through your failure towards your goal. And you want to get through your failures as quickly as possible. So if you're afraid that something's going to happen, then it's going to happen. And so just get through it. And just if at all possible, just make it safe for you to fail as much as possible. And then focus on how to get it right and how to reach your goal. So that's where the focus should be, how to reach your goal and to do the right things or the necessary things to reach the goal. And it's actually really two things: to have a clear goal and to take the actions necessary to reach the goal. And the interesting thing about this whole thing is that if you think about that, you need the failure to be able to do that, because it's oftentimes a failure that tells you what needs to be done, because you're doing something oftentimes that's ineffective to reaching your goal. So you reach the failure, so you have a goal, and then you start taking the action, or the action that you think that's going to take you towards your goal, and then you're going to have unintended consequences where the actions that you took actually give you the opposite results, or results that derail you away from reaching your goal. That's called a failure. And then when that happens, you go, oh, I see. uh, there, this is what I need to do now. So you correct it, but because your mind is on the go and getting the corrections from the failure that you just had, now you're able to correct that, and then it takes you closer to the goal. So the more quickly you go through your failures, if you will, and the more quickly you correct them, the faster you reach your goal. So that's why the concept in Tai Chi is go get through your failure as quickly as possible. Then you'll reach your goal faster. Right, and that's the secret to success, and it's one of the reasons why also in Tai Chi we actually really don't really believe in failures. We only believe there's feedback, meaning as in you do something, it has a certain consequence, and when you don't like the consequence, then you change it to until you like the consequence, and so there's only feedback. Now, hopefully that was helpful, and enjoy your journey.